Age Wonder coming at you from my van down by the river. So, fake news. I want to talk a little bit about a new strategy that is being put forth, and it's a propaganda strategy being pushed by the left, and specifically CNN. So, fake news story number one that came out last week was the story, and that's what it was, a tale. The story that General Flynn was ready to testify that Donald Trump had him reach out to the Russian government while Donald Trump was still a candidate. Complete, made-up, fake news, and they reported a retraction. They published a retraction stating that happened while he was a president-elect. And I have talked in previous videos how it's the job of people like Flynn in a transition government to reach out to foreign entities to establish contact and to give away their some of their intentions and maybe attitudes about how they would govern, and to make connections so that Donald Trump isn't running around on January 20th looking for Putin's phone number, looking for somebody's contact information, that there is channels of communication opened up prior to taking office. It's just a regular part of it. That was totally fake news that had happened while he was a candidate. It was completely untrue. Fake news story number two. They came out and said that Donald Trump Jr. had inappropriate contact with WikiLeaks. No, he had very public contact with WikiLeaks, where he publicly talked about things that had nothing to do with the election, and there was no impropriety found at all. Another story kind of brushed under the table that they got wrong. Fake story number three. They recently came out, CNN did, and reported that Donald Trump had got tipped off by WikiLeaks prior to the public leak of the DNC and Hillary Clinton emails. That somehow he was already aware of it. They were off by 10 days. CNN had to print a retraction, had to publish a retraction saying that they got it wrong. So why do they keep getting it wrong? Are they just that inept? Are they just that stupid? Or is there a strategy behind it? I'm here to tell you right now, this is a tried and true strategy of propaganda that goes back to the very beginning of press. That you publish a bald-faced lie about someone that you're targeting on the front page of a newspaper. And then when you're called down on it and it's proven that you're false and that you've made a false accusation, then you go back and you print a retraction down here at the bottom of page 15 at the back of the newspaper where no one pays attention. So what is the net result of these fake news stories? People on the left believe, because of these fake news stories and because they didn't hear about the retraction, they didn't hear CNN backpedal and say, oops, we got it wrong. They just heard the headline, they didn't hear the follow-up. So there's whole sections of America who believe with their whole heart that Donald Trump was in contact with the Russians while he was a candidate, which is untrue. They are saying and believe in their whole heart that WikiLeaks was working with Donald Trump and that Donald Trump was in on the WikiLeaks release and knew about it beforehand. They believe that Donald Trump Jr. and Julian Assange are some kind of secret text buddies. And there's a whole lot more stories where that came from, and I'm sure in the comments section you'll remind me of a few more that I've forgotten. But they do this intentionally. They release false information, understanding and knowing that if they can release the information, people will be convinced of it. They will change the minds of the American people. And when forced to retract their false statements, no one will get the news on that. So they're programming the people, the common people of America, who are not closely paying attention to every detail of these stories. They're programming them to believe a false narrative, and it is working. I challenge you, if you have contact with people on the left, to ask them what they think, because they will parrot these false, fake news stories coming from all of these cable news networks and broadcast channels. Things that will parrot things that have been recounted and been withdrawn by the press, but they missed the withdrawal and they just got the main story. And that is the intention. There is an info war. There is active propaganda against Trump, against the right, against all of us, that we are all being targeted with slander and fake news stories and incorrect statements, trying to paint a picture that all of us are evil and need to be eliminated. And they are doing this in the wide open, and the American people are falling for it hook, line, and sinker, unfortunately. But fortunately, we know the truth. Talk about some more fake news stories where they printed the attack on the front page of their webpage or on their headlines, and then their retraction was later on. I mean, how many lefties know that the lady that's accusing Roy Moore, for instance, basically came out and said she forged the yearbook? They have no clue. They haven't heard. They're not getting told the true story. They're being deceived. And we all know who the author of all deception is. God save our republic.